Renzo and Lucia are two characters in an old Italian novel called The Betrothed, and they're a young couple who present themselves to the parish priest to get married. And a few days before their wedding, an Italian nobleman approaches the priest via his henchman, I guess, and he threatens the priest, threatens his life if he carries through with this wedding, because this Italian nobleman wants Lucia for himself. And so the priest, in his timidity, refuses to marry Renzo and Lucia. He pretends to be sick, and because of it, a whole series of events unfolds. Lucia and Renzo are separated. Eventually, Lucia is brought back to her hometown, and the archbishop becomes aware of the situation and of the fact that his parish priest refused to celebrate their wedding. And there's a scene in which the Archbishop Federigo, confronts his priest and asks why he refused to celebrate the wedding. And I just want to read a little bit of the words that the Archbishop shares with this priest. He says, "And when you presented yourself to the church to be admitted to the holy ministry, were there any such reservations made? Were you told that the duties imposed by the ministry were free from every obstacle, exempt from every peril? Were you told that personal safety was to be the guide and limit of your duty? Were you not told expressly the reverse of all this? Were you not warned that you were sent as a lamb among wolves? Did you not even then know that there were violent men in the world who would oppose you in the performance of your duty? He, whose example should be our guide, Jesus, in imitation of whom we call ourselves shepherds, when he came on earth to accomplish the designs of his benevolence, did he pay regard to his own safety?" Brothers and sisters, that is what we celebrate today in the heart of Jesus, that he did not pay heed to his own safety in order to provide for our own. He willingly gave of his life, of his safety, in order that each one of us might be saved. We hear that in St. Paul's letter to the Romans, but God proves his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And then St. Paul makes one more move. He says, "How much more then, since we are now justified by his blood, will we be saved through him from the wrath? For if indeed while we were enemies we were reconciled to God, how much more, once reconciled, will we be saved by his life?" All of us who already were saved by his outpouring of his life, who didn't preserve his life but gave it over, all of us who are already saved by that, how much more will Jesus continue to pour himself out for you and for me in order that that salvation might be preserved in us, that each one of us might remain rooted in that gift of his love. Bishop Federigo goes on to say and convict the parish priest. He says, "How many of the martyrs relied on their natural courage to make their way to their death?" Rhetorically, the answer is none of them. But they asked in faith that that courage would be given to them, and it was. Each one of us should approach the Sacred Heart of Jesus in faith, knowing that every virtue, every gift, every ounce of strength, every ounce of faith that we need is given to us not by our natural abilities, but rather, if we ask in faith, is already being poured into our hearts from the heart of his Son by the Holy Spirit. And there is nothing that we have to fear. There is nothing that we have to think we don't have in what the Lord is asking us to do. So as we approach this altar on this great solemnity of the heart of Jesus, may we approach in faith that he loves us with a love that is willing to give of itself, even to death. Even in our own experience, when we see people timid and maybe not willing to give of themselves, or who are counting every cost in order to love us or to love others, doesn't count the cost in giving of his life for our salvation. And beyond that salvation, his heart continues to remain open, and his love continues to be poured out to give us every good gift that we need if we ask for it in faith.